Okay, I was asked to talk about what's wrong with Australia. I think we need a lifetime to chat about it, but I want to talk about globalisation and free trade. I got into the political arena before I was really aware of these things happening about 20 years ago. And back then, when I grew up, you could do basically anything. So you could get out and get a job straight away, go to your bank and borrow money against a good idea. Trade was flourishing. Australia was sending more produce and product offshore than it was bringing in, so we were financially very stable in Australia. Maybe that's really what they were aiming at. I sometimes wonder what globalisation's about. It's, when you consider that we were in a position where we were building everything we needed, we were growing everything we needed, we were exporting the excess overseas, we were bringing some imported stuff in, which we knew was pretty much substandard at the time, from Taiwan generally. And Australia was doing really well. You had a good opportunity to buy a home, you had good opportunities for jobs. You didn't have to take any job, you could actually shop around and find something that you liked. I remember doing that. So we had this country that was the best in the world, and it was known for that. We were called the lucky country, and it was a brilliant place. And then someone in there, someone decided one day that we should go into a global market, we should embrace trading with other countries, free trade, open slather trading. And that would mean all sorts of things, as we found out over the years. I'm meant to compete with someone that's earning $10 a week in another country to manufacture something. And as soon as you do that, the manufacturing either has to move offshore and utilise that low wage structure, or it has to close down. And so, as you've seen, most of our industries have gone. We have no car manufacturers here anymore. We don't manufacture fridges anymore. We don't manufacture anything, basically. There's very little manufacturing left in Australia. It's slowly closing down because we can't compete on what they call free trade or globalisation, a free platform. We used to have protectionism. That's been done away with as well. I mean, you elect a politician now to not protect you. They're not allowed to protect your industries, they're not allowed to protect your income, they're not allowed to look after you in any way at all, because that's protectionism, and that's wrong. And I kind of would have thought that if you're electing someone, you're electing them to protect your best interests. So we had this situation where we entered into trade deals where China can ship anything they like here. They can come here and buy our farms, they can come here and buy our water. But this supposedly free or fair trade system means I can't go to their country and buy a farm, I can't buy their water, not that I want it. I probably wouldn't want to buy their farms, but the fact is I can't. So we're entering into deals not just to open up the world on a level playing field, which we can't do. We can't possibly deal in this way, but not only are we doing trade deals, they're not good trade deals for us. So all of a sudden, Australia is now importing more than it sells, which gives us a deficit of about $50 billion a year. So each year we go into debt. And so on top of globalisation, then not only do we have to go onto some sort of level playing field to help out the poor nations, which we've been doing for years anyway, then we're expected to take, then they're going to have to expect us to compete to take lower wages. And we start to see that creeping in now. But what really makes it worse is you can't build anything here anymore. They're buying your farms. When they buy your farms and they own the farms, they then take the produce and send that to their country. They've made no profit here, so they're not going to pay tax anymore. So as all of these industries move offshore, we don't have the tax income from them. As we sell our farms and our infrastructure and our water and our ports, we're also selling off our security, and we've also not got the income coming into the country. So then they come to us, the people, who are doing it tough, and say, we need more taxes from you. If we can't get taxes, we're going to come up with fines and levies and all sorts of things to reach into our back pocket and make it so that two people in a family now have to work and still struggle to pay the mortgage. Then the money that's heading offshore is not making it to the poor people. So then they say to us, look, you need to start donating money to foreign aid. And Australia, as small as we are, the lucky country, or once lucky country, now has to send billions of dollars offshore. And each year they want us to increase that. The candidates running in my electorate of Macon all want to increase that. So we take billions and billions of dollars, which we don't have. So then we borrow that money from another country, right? And then send that offshore to corrupt governments who don't do anything to help their people. And then we now have to pay that back. But it won't be me and you. It'll be our children and their children, because we'll owe trillions of dollars. So we're sending all this money offshore, which we can't afford because we don't have it. So we're being told we have to borrow it to send offshore for other people. But we've got all these unemployed. Couldn't we be sending good people over there to help the actual people that need it? So rather than feed a person for a day, teach them to feed themselves so they can feed themselves for life, as the old saying goes. But it doesn't stop there. Then the government want more income because they know we haven't got any left. So they're going to bring in and arrange to bring into this country 190,000 people per year. Now, if you're going to bring in 190,000 people per year into this country, you need to house them. If they come in as refugees or come in as genuine refugees, then all those people waiting on housing trust lines for 20 years get displaced because they can't bring people in that are displaced in some other country and just let them live on the streets like our people are. So then we've got to give them the houses. But when we give them the houses, we can't give them second-hand goods because they might arc up against each other because it's not fair or equity. So then they've got to give them new fridges and new lounges and new TVs and new everything else. So, look, it's lovely to help people, but for God's sake, what about helping our people? So we're doing all these ridiculous things. And then not only are we sending money offshore and borrowing it from elsewhere, the money's not making it. Even if you go to AusAid and study it, they say, look, but 10% or 20% of the money can go missing. We're not sure where. Well, I would like to know where billions of dollars are going missing. I would like to know that if we give $1 billion to Indonesia, that it's actually making it to the people that need it in Indonesia. Yet I travel there and they've got no potable water, no free healthcare, no free education, nothing else. And the Indonesian army is now bragging they're going to have more equipment than we do. So are we paying for that? So I don't know where this is meant to stop, but it's not going to stop if we keep voting for the same people that are doing this to us. And to say we need to increase how much we borrow to give away is ridiculous. Why don't we stop borrowing money? Why don't we pull our heads in? Why don't we tighten up the reins? Why don't we bring back protectionism? Why don't we start bringing in tariff protections? Why don't we start building cars here again? Why don't we become the lucky country again and then start helping people? But what I feel they've been trying to do is level the playing field around the world. Lovely thought, but they can't do it because they're giving money to the wrong people. So rather than lift Asia up to living standards of Australia, I feel they're trying to drag Australia down to the living standards of the third world countries, and you can see that happening. For instance, healthcare. I grew up in the 70s as a kid. I was born in the 60s, I grew up in the 70s. There were 17 beds per 1,000 in Australia in our hospital system. We were one of the best in the world. Now we have 2.3, they tell us, beds per 1,000, which I think is less than that. So in other words, we've gone backwards. So not only are we sending money offshore and going into debt by trade deficits, but we're also cutting back on healthcare, education, mental health services, disability funding, pension increases and all that sort of stuff, not to lower how much we spend in this country. We're actually taking from our poor and giving it to poor people in other nations. And that is insane. It's not going to work forever. I mean, if we don't change the government, if we don't change how we do these things, in 10 or 20 years' time, we'll have we won't own half our water, we won't own our farms, our infrastructure will be owned by overseas nations. The income, we'll never be able to keep up with the debt. Your kids will never be able to pay the debt. They'll never be able to own a home. We won't be able to afford good food anymore, even though it'll be grown here. They'll send it offshore to China and send back all sorts of rubbishy crap and expect us to eat it because that's all we can afford. And I think our pensioners deserve a shitload better than that. I started writing notes. I don't even know why I wrote notes. The Brexit vote in England is the only thing that makes me feel that the people of this world are sick of this shit. And we really do need to change it. I don't know what we're meant to do. Foreign aid needs to be cut back. If we don't have the money and we have to borrow the money or cut back on essential things like healthcare, then that's a dead set sign that we can't afford to keep giving millions overseas. If we cannot home the people that are already here or provide decent services and healthcare for them, then we can't continue to increase immigration to this country. We need to stop, we need to settle down, we need to say no to the system, we need to vote out Labor and Liberal, we need to get some common sense people in there. And if you're worried about chaos, Christ, the chaos that your children are going to go through, right, it's much worse than any chaos because you voted someone like me into politics and I disagree with some of the crap that we're being fed. So there's a lot of changes needed in this country and I don't know where to start and stop. But I would like to start buying Australian product again. And if you know me, I don't know what to do between elections, so I open markets for the farmers that are about to shut down, that were going broke. And those little farmers come along to a market one day a week, sell their produce to the customer, make enough money to stay on the land. Customers are happy. The pensioners can come down and actually eat some fresh produce like they bloody damn well deserve. And now they're trying to shut my markets down. And I'm going to the Supreme Court full bench just to allow a market to exist. It's not just my market, they want them all gone. They want to control every aspect of your lives. And I won't even go into red tape, for God's sake. I was just at a meeting trying to back up some people that got an employment issue with a big employer. And the rubbish they raved on and red tape for these people, the person was in trouble because she hugged another employee. Christ, the day that hugging someone becomes illegal in a country, you know you've got bloody problems. And when you consider helping the rest of the world, helping people run away from problems in their own country is not helping them. Going to their countries and sorting out the bloody issue and empowering those people to take their country back and to grow decent food there and to get democracy and get civil rights and everything else is a much better concept than just saying, oh, flee your country because it's a shithole and we've been giving your corrupt governments too much money for too long. And come here, and then come here and bring your problems with you. And it doesn't work that way. Look, I'm more than happy to help people overseas. I fly overseas myself and help people. We do need to help people. We don't need to help corrupt governments. We don't need to give money to people that don't pass it on to where it's needed. I think Australia needs to get its shit together. It needs to fix its backyard. It needs to look after those people like our pensioners and our veterans and look after them properly. And when we've got our shit together here and we're starting to become the lucky country again, then we should get our people and train them to go overseas and help people in need. And that's how it needs to be done. But none of that will be done unless you vote like England's just done to regain your sovereignty, to tell the UN to piss off and to start looking after your own backyard and protecting your citizens and your industries and your farming industries and your way of life. And if you can't do that, there'll be no way of life, there'll be no farming, there'll be nothing left. And it's not fair because my grandparents worked bloody hard to provide for me. I've had a damn good life and I would be buggered if I'm going to let that slip now and let my children and theirs grow up into a shithole, right, because I didn't have enough balls to do something about it. So you need to have some balls when you vote this year and give up on the two-party system. It's broken. Send them a strong message. We can't change it this year. Maybe in 3 years we can. But start the ball rolling by changing what you do. And don't just blame the pollies. Stop buying the imported crap. Get off your ass and buy Australian. I know it's hard. There's not much left. But when you see something's Australian or there's a local small business or you're buying a gift for someone, buy it locally and let's try and make a difference between elections to protect this fine country and restore it to the beautiful, lucky country it once was. Thank you.